I had been serving in the military as a Navy SEAL for over a decade, and my body had taken quite a beating throughout the years. I started realizing that I could not keep on going much longer if I wanted to keep my health and my body intact. I'd had too many injuries and broken bones and joints throughout my service that now I had started suffering from chronic pain, especially during the winter season. It had even started to affect my workability, and that was never a good thing. So with that thought in mind, I knew that my time as a Navy SEAL had come to an end, and that I had to stop. So I finished up my tour and I said goodbye. Now that I was having a career change, it was time to decide what I wanted to do in the future. After much thought, I had finally come to a realization that I had just always wanted to get back to my very first passion, and that passion was hunting. So I gave in to the urge and decided to do just that. There were just some tiny things to take care of before I took to hunting. And yes, most of them were related to finances. I'd actually bought myself a piece of land in Colorado Springs over a few years ago. It was when I had come back from my tour in the Middle East. Even then, I had always had it in mind that one day, I was just going to settle for hunting and nothing else. I was already setting up for my retirement plan. I was planning on building a cabin on the land, but it wasn't meant to be at the time. But I was damn set on building one for myself now. So, while I'd been saving for building my first cabin over a few years, it still wasn't quite enough. I had to save some more money to actually start the work in full force. So instead, I had to pick up a job that paid well enough so I could get a head start on building the cabin. Looking through my experience and all, some of the most suitable job options for me had been a bodyguard, a trainer, or even just a heavy lifter or something. None of them paid all that much or even suited my taste. After much consideration, I decided to pick up a small gig working as a bouncer at a strip club in town. It wasn't very difficult for me, and it paid okay. I'd been working this job for over a year now, and I knew everyone that worked at the club and many surrounding establishments as well as the regular customers. During my time off, I would work on my little DIY project, building my cabin. I was almost done with it by now. The main structure was complete and the basic necessities were installed. I'd even stocked up most of my stuff, including my precious guns and weapons, and some other household stuff. I was now working on the outdoor area of the main structure, as well as building a workstation and a small stable on the side, hoping to keep some few select animals there too once I started living there. Everything on the groundwork was going pretty smoothly. It didn't come across much trouble most of the time. On occasion, there were some lousy customers that got rude or overly inappropriate and touchy with the dancers or the waitresses. I just had to pick them up and throw them out. But that only happened on rare occasions. Most of the customers were regulars, so they already knew me and I had a reputation of not giving a shit and just getting the job done if any problems arose, so they made sure to toe the line at all times. So it was seldom that trouble found me there. Until that fateful night. The night it all changed. We were closing up the club that night and focusing on emptying out the premises. It was always the most difficult part of the night as well as the job. There were always a few stragglers left, and we had to get anyone and everyone out from the inside of the club. A few of the more desolate ones who came there alone would be found lying in some corner, or the other most often in their own vomit or drool. Some strays would even pass out in the bathroom stalls. Getting them out and sending them on their way was always a little bit of a hassle. The night of my problem was a little bit different, however. We had just started the initial process of closing up. That was where there were no more entries entertained and all the customers still in the club were asked to kindly clear their tabs and start heading out for the night since it was closing. Most of them listened and started doing just that, when suddenly there was a commotion from the inside. I was called to intervene and de-escalate a situation. It seemed that one of the dancers had a real problem with one of the guests. According to her, the guest was coming off a little aggressive, and on encountering the guy, I knew that she wasn't just blowing smoke. The man was being a pain in the ass. He wasn't just creating an issue with the dancer, he was also facing off with the bartender. He was refusing to pay his tab for the drinks, and by the looks of it, it was a big one too. The guy, on the other hand, wasn't very big. He was definitely messing with the wrong people here.
The hell with you and your club, buddy.
He was shouting at the top of his lungs by then, getting red in the face with anger. With experience, I knew it beforehand that making a scene out of it, especially while inside the club, would not be very helpful or the logical thing to do. First off, he could get aggressive and end up hurting someone else before I got to him. Secondly, it would also be bad for business. Fighting with some crazy guy shouting in the middle of a room would not paint a pretty picture for our establishment. So instead of shouting back at him and getting handsy, I just walked over to him and calmly asked him to leave the club. On suddenly seeing me, someone much larger than himself, staring right down at him, almost engulfing him, he backtracked and stopped shouting. Instead, he tried to talk his way into us giving him another chance. I agreed, asking him to get his act together and pay his tab. After dealing with him, I considered the matter closed and turned around to go check on another customer. As I turned my back to him and was walking away, he lunged for a nearby glass and threw it right at me, hitting me square in the back.
I'll tell you what, why don't you go and cool off, you big muscle-headed loser?
He started shouting once again, laughing mockingly at me as if he had just accomplished something great. There was nothing great about it, but now I was pissed. I couldn't actually hit him because that would be against the rules, but I could surely make him suffer a bit. I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt from his seat and pulled him up above my head as people all around us stood up and started cheering me on. He started flailing around, clutching at my arms and screaming at me to let go of him, but it was almost as if nothing was happening. It had no effect on me. Instead of taking him to the front door, I turned towards the back door that opened into a back alley. One of the bartenders hurried to open the back door as I tossed him into the dumpster beside it. He landed with a loud thunk, accompanied by some shouts and then some shocked and pained groans at the rude contact with the contents of said dumpster. He started letting out angry yells and curses, but I remained unfazed in the face of his tantrums. I'd faced off against actual soldiers of an actual army. This man was nothing to me. "Don't you ever bring your tail around this place again, or I'll rip your face off," I yelled to him. The last words I said to him before I turned around and walked back inside the club, closing and locking the door behind me. The rest of the night went smoothly. Later that night, as we were closing up the club, I walked the girls out to their car. It was something that I always did to make sure there was no lingering threats just around the corner, ready to pounce or something. Some angry rejects would try to do this sometimes, taking advantage if the girl was drunk or defenseless. So I would always make sure that they were in their car and on their way out before getting back inside the building to call it a night. After getting off my shift, I was leaving out the back door, locking the door from outside till the next time we opened, when I saw a black SUV pull up and block the exit of the alley ahead of me. I was just wondering what the hell was going on when one of the doors opened, and guess who happened to walk out? Yeah, the little guy from earlier tonight. And by the looks of it, he was trying to take out his revenge on me. But I was having none of it. "Hey, I thought I told you to never come back here again," I shouted at him before he could reach me. But the man looked like he hadn't heard a word I said. He kept walking towards me with a funny look on his face, as if he was some kind of a king or bloody hero in a movie or something. It was not a good look on him, honestly.
You don't even know who you're dealing with, do you?
He hissed back at me, looking downright deranged now. I steadied my ground as he slowly started approaching me, his hands clasped behind his back. "Look, man, if you step any closer to me, I swear I'm gonna punch you in your face so hard I'll rock it into next week," I warned him, promising him a painful future if he didn't stop all this bullshit and get on his way. He didn't stop. He just stepped ever closer to me with a strange grin playing across his face. Curling my fist in anger now, I punched him right in the face. Or at least that's what I tried to do. Instead, I was left reeling with shock, because instead of making contact with his smug face, my fist was in the man's hand. The guy had actually caught my fist before it even landed on him. A shocker, if there was any. I had been in hand-to-hand combat almost all my career and was considered one of the best. The strength it would take to stop me from hitting you would be immense, so usually the chance of it happening was slim to none. There weren't even many trained soldiers who could block my direct surprise hit to the face, let alone a puny civilian, so my shock was quite understandable. I was just starting to wonder in my mind whether the man was a secretly trained combat specialist or if it was just dumb luck on his part, when something even more strange and shocking happened. His eyes suddenly turned bright green and began to glow. Next, his bones began to break and morph, pulling and pushing as he started to grow taller, as if he was actually shape-shifting into something bigger. It was something I couldn't even imagine, let alone process, the sight in front of my eyes. It was like a scene straight out of a horror flick. The man, or whatever the hell it was, did not even give me a chance to get my bearings back. He picked me up as if I weighed nothing more than a loose piece of paper and proceeded to throw me backwards about 15 feet at least. It all looked too effortless for him, as if I was just a little doll for him, and I knew then and there that power was not human whatsoever. I straightened up from the slump I had so painfully landed in, trying to hold my head up and keep my eyes on the thing, whatever it was. And pretty soon it became blatantly clear what it was. It was a demon, right out of old religious descriptions, a creature from hell. Now he was standing over me, fully in the shape of a demon, with dark skin, all pretenses of the previous human character completely gone from him. He just stood there looking down at me with a disgusted look on his face, as if he had just smelt something bad.
It's time for you to meet the boss, peasant,
he growled out this time, moving even closer to me, almost upon me. I started feeling my body shutting down. My heart slowed down to almost a dangerous level. All I could focus on and see around me was a very gruesome creature looking down, showing me his sharp teeth and bad breath. The large demon blasted me with some kind of dark energy, but I didn't feel much, already feeling drained. And then everything went dark.
Fall to your knees, mortal. Your soul belongs to me.
When I woke up next, or more like, regained consciousness once again, I was lying inside that same dumpster I had thrown the man in. I was fully covered in a red, sticky fluid that looked suspiciously like slime. Must have been the thing that the creature had blasted me with. It's all I remembered from that encounter, and I didn't even remember losing consciousness. Sure, I was seeing black, but I was still conscious. Now it just felt like a chunk of my memory was missing or something. I groaned and started to get up sluggishly, only to stop my movements when I saw the very guy I'd gotten into the whole mess with in the alley, looking down on me once again, only in his human form this time around.
You're lucky my boss wanted you alive, chump. And don't you forget, you work for us now. Got it?
He gritted out, an annoying smirk on his face. Getting myself out of the dumpster and shaking off the mess attached to me, I focused on the task at hand instead of giving him a response. Once I was done with that, I reached out and picked him up again by his neck this time, beyond incensed now at his words. "I don't remember signing anything, buddy," I shouted in his face. but he remained impassive to my rage and just continued smirking at me as if thoroughly amused at my predicament.
Oh, but you did, man. You so did. You sold us your soul, and now you work for us, like many, many other imbeciles, just like you.
He gritted out, unfazed. Shut up! I did no such thing! I bellowed back, but even as I was saying that, I started remembering the bits and pieces of my missing memory. And yeah, there was some agreement in there. While I was delirious and was blackmailed for my life, I almost froze in shock, remembering that I had promised to work for these demons. I dropped the man in a disbelieving jolt.
Ah, there it is. You finally remember who your master is now.
The man's smirk widened even more, if possible, realizing that I had caught up with the new development. No, 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 I kept on repeating, trying to reassure myself that it wasn't true. Unfortunately, it was. But fortunately, they could not make me do so.
Yes, yes, and yes. Can you not see me in my real form, man? Just focus and you will. That's how you're gonna live now. You'll always know where we are. And you gotta obey us now, dummy.
The man looked to be thoroughly enjoying himself. And sure enough, as I focused, his appearance started to distort right in front of my eyes, and where the man had been human, there was now a demon in his place. I stumbled back in shock, still refusing to bend to the reality. I don't give a damn about any of your stupid deals, I shouted at him. And you can't make me! The infuriating man just cocked an eyebrow in response. That's when I realized that I couldn't just solve this by shouting. I needed time to sort everything out and come up with the best solution. So I took a deep breath and turned to talk again. Look, man, just leave me alone for now. The man gave me a hands-up motion, a universal sign of giving up, and without saying anything, walked away. Just as he turned the corner, he looked at me once again.
Don't even think about running away, dude. We can find you anywhere.
And with that, he was gone. And I was left there wondering what to do. That's when an idea started brewing in my mind. With this gift, I now had the ability to see these creatures in their full demon form, and I was going to take full advantage of that gift. I was going to get rid of them all before they could lure anyone else into their shady deals. I went back to my cabin. I grabbed all my guns and ammo and went looking for all the demons. I walked into the restaurant they were gathered at as the people around us watched me, shocked because of the guns that I had on me, but I paid them no mind. I just focused on finding the demons. I spotted them quickly. I walked over to the table where the ringleader of this demon pack was sitting, drinking his wine with an amused smirk on his face.
Don't forget who you work for now, boy.
He started shouting from his chair as soon as he spotted me, laughing at me, and all of his minions joined in too. That meant everyone at the table started chuckling and laughing, eating their food, pointing towards me as if I was nothing but a joke. But I had had enough.
I'm gonna send every one of you demons back to where you came from!
I shouted in rage. I pulled out my pistol and unloaded the clip into all of them.